So we're here in Covent Garden in central London. You can see the Opera House behind me, and quite bustling in the evening here. It's about 5:30 in the evening, and we're here to talk about mobile network capacity problems. And I'm here with David Wilkins from Westminster City Council. David is the head of Smart City in Westminster. Dave, when we met about 2 years ago, and I said we were doing mobile coverage surveying, you said, that's great, but it doesn't tell me anything because we have 100% coverage in the borough. But you did say we have problems with capacity on the mobile networks, and that's more important if you can find a way of measuring the capacity. So why is capacity on the network so important, and what exactly do you mean when you say network capacity?
Well, in the simplest terms, coverage is a measure of whether you can get a signal on the mobile networks. And I think everyone's experienced at some point in their life where the number of bars they have on their phone goes down to 1 or 0. And the user experience in that occasion is really poor, and you can't use your phone for anything that you want to do. Capacity is a different challenge. So there are times in places like Westminster where you have a signal, but you're still unable to use your phone. And that's because in Westminster, we have around 1 million visitors a day. So that's 1 million people trying to use the finite capacity on the mobile networks. So the reason I'm interested in measuring the capacity is I want to understand and provide a really positive experience for visitors to Westminster.
Okay, so basically capacity problems happen when the networks get busy and there's not enough resources there to deal with all the traffic demands.
Exactly that, and one of the biggest challenges is that is not static throughout the day. If I'm standing in a tube station in the middle of the night, I will be perfectly fine. But if I go there at rush hour, then I will have a real problem using my phone. So it's a forever evolving and changing feast. We need to constantly monitor it throughout the day to get a good picture.
Okay, so earlier today, I did some testing here at this point in Covent Garden. So let's just take a look at how the mobile phones performed when the network was quiet in early morning, mid-morning this morning. So we're here in Covent Garden, it's mid-morning, and you can see the Opera House in the background here, and I have good coverage on the phone, 3-4 bars, it's toggling between 3 and 4. So let's just see how the apps perform. So let's try loading YouTube first of all. That seems to be loading okay. Let's just see, make sure a video plays. Yeah, that's okay, that's working as intended. Let's try BBC News app. It's loading okay. Let's go to the video section and see, can we stream a video from there? Seems to be loading okay, and the video is playing okay. So everything seems to be working fine there. Finally, let's just try Google Maps, make sure that it paints the right map instantly for us. And yes, it's showing us right in the centre of Covent Garden, blue dot with all the landmarks around us. So Google Maps is working fine. So the apps appear to be working fine, as you would expect, with a strong signal mid-morning before the networks get really busy. Okay, so the apps all worked in the morning when the networks were quiet. So let's see how they perform in the evening when there's a lot more people around and the mobile networks are busier. So let's try YouTube first of all. So you can see straight away there that's struggling to load any videos, and this loaded fine in the morning, and there are 3 bars coverage there, so it should work. Let's see how BBC News works. So this should have data already, and you can see the spinning wheel in the centre there, so it's just not loading any data. And again, this worked fine, there's 3 bars coverage, it should be working fine. It's giving me a message saying that there's no network connection. And let's see how Google Maps performs. So you can see there's a dot in the middle of the screen, but it can't even paint the map of the area. So let's just try a search in Google Maps. Search for Leicester Square, and nothing. So even though there's 3 bars coverage, there isn't enough capacity on the network to deal with all the data requests from all the users in the area. And that's classic capacity problems and how they manifest for users.
I think what that experiment showed is, anecdotally, we have a capacity problem within Westminster. When it was quiet, the apps worked as intended. When it was peak times and really busy, the phones really struggled. But working for the council, I need an evidence base that we can use to inform policy. So that's why we've partnered with Inakalum to more regularly capture capacity data in the city to inform that evidence base.
On our capacity tests, we upload and download files to and from a cloud server, and we measure the network transfer speeds for upload and download. And then we plot that on a map. And we partner with Veolia, who are Westminster's waste collection partner in the borough, and we put the kits in their trucks, and as they're driving around doing their daily routes collecting waste, our kits are measuring the mobile capacity, upload and download files. And we put that onto a map, and we have a whole platform then for visualizing that data. So now let's just have a look at how that data looks on our platform. We have over 1 million data points in Westminster alone, and it's only an 8 square mile area. Obviously, as humans, that's a lot of data for us to try and make sense of. So we visualize the data in different ways, and this is one of our visualizations. So you can see that we have all 4 major mobile network operators there, a map for each of them. And we're looking at central London there. You can see Shaftesbury Avenue, Charing Cross Road, and I'm just going to look at the data for 6 o'clock in the morning. So across the top there, you'd see there are different time periods, and this one here starting at 6 o'clock. These are 3-hour time periods, and I just run that for that period, and we'll see what the network performance looks like. So you can see it's mostly green, which means that combined download speeds of 4 megabits per second or greater, which is pretty good, and most of your all apps would work on your phone with those kind of data transfer speeds. But let's see what happens now when we change it to 6 o'clock in the evening. I'll just run that again. And you can see we get a lot more red and orange squares in there. So if you see a red cell in there, there's a pretty good chance that your phone won't work as intended, and you get that spinning wheel effect that we saw earlier in Covent Garden. This is another visualization, and these are the raw data points that we collected that make up those polygons, those colored polygons that we saw earlier. And you can see that you can hardly see the street names there. Shaftesbury Avenue is just along there, but if I hover over any of those individual pins, you'll see that it's time stamped, and we have the combined upload download speeds there. We can split it between upload and download speeds. It's very, very granular data, and that's what gives us the confidence to be able to say that the polygons we showed earlier actually reflect the true user experience. And if I hover over one of these red discs, you'll see that transfer fail comes up there. So we allow 5 seconds for a half meg file to transfer, and if it doesn't do it in that time, we consider that as a failure. We tag it as a failure. Okay, so David, now that you have the evidence base and you have proper data to back up where exactly and how bad the capacity problems are in the borough, how have the conversations changed within the council with your colleagues and the planners and all the different departments?
So previously, when I had conversations with planners, the data we were going from was the Connected Nations data from Ofcom. That very much painted a very different picture to what the capacity data showed. So Ofcom demonstrated that we pretty much have universal 4G availability, and 96% 5G availability. But the capacity data really shines a light on where we have a negative user experience. And by sharing that data with planners, we're working collaboratively on how we can explore changes to policy, how we structure our infrastructure development plan, so we can start to think about how we can address those capacity problems. Also, as a council, we own quite a lot of property within Westminster, and property is where we install rooftop sites that address capacity problems. So we're exploring how that property portfolio maps against those capacity hotspots to see if we can use our own assets to solve that problem. And finally, we've used the data for external funding applications. So by using this data, we were successful in securing funding from DSIT to test new smart infrastructure, so smart lampposts that are better capable of installing small cell equipment.
Great stuff. And you've also been having some conversations outside the council with mobile network operators and infrastructure providers, and without breaching any confidentiality agreements or anything like that, have you actually moved the dial to the extent where they've committed to put in extra infrastructure and improve service in areas where you've identified where there are capacity problems?
Yeah, so the conversation with MNOs have moved on a lot more. Mm-hmm. So now we know where their problem areas are. We can be constructive and collaborative about how we might be able to help them. So we've looked at their problem areas, and we've mapped that against where we have lamp columns. And as a result, we've seen significant investment in additional 5G small cells that will help to address capacity hotspots. And finally, it also helped us have conversations about moving the model forward for small cells from individual small cells per operator to having more neutral host infrastructure in places like Oxford Street, where the lamp columns are in high demand for other uses like sensors, cameras, hanging baskets, Christmas lights, but those lamp posts can only take a certain amount of weight. So this has led to us exploring a neutral host infrastructure that will help address capacity hotspots for all 4 MNOs within Oxford Street.
Great stuff. So the bottom line is, now that you have data, conversations are moving much quicker, much faster, and there's actually actions happening where you're working towards resolving the problems with capacity in the world at a much faster rate than you were before you had the data.
Yeah, and it's also fundamental in providing us an evidence base of how effective our interventions have been at addressing the problem. And by measuring and monitoring, our aim is to improve the user and visitor experience of people coming to Westminster.